entirely sure of the effectiveness. Airborne MG42 setting up, although deeply wounded, and we see a push from the riflemen now equipped with BARs. Moving ahead, my position is a bit exposed since I actually have nothing to hold this large area. And this might end up badly. Grenadiers going to spot this soon and seek cover where they can. In fact, yep. MG42 not close enough. Grenadiers already picking off two riflemen with their increased marksman skills, and we see the Puma is out in the field quickly moving ahead to clear up the situation. Mines being laid down to prevent any counter seizures, and Volksgrenadiers doing a bit of harassment here. Also note with the next patch, once you reach the skirmish phase, Volksgrenadiers will receive a boost to territory capture, plus they'll also generally be a bit cheaper to reinforce. Puma rushing in, auto cannon firing away at the riflemen, but seeing a much softer target. Open fire on the airborne, who being deeply wounded are completely wiped out in seconds. And we see a grenadier team has been reformed, a bit from wounded Volksgrenadiers and grenadiers, giving me a slightly discounted grenadier team, and riflemen trying to seize the MG42 are quickly torn apart in heavy fire, and the grenadiers seize the MG42 quickly to prevent any capture of it once more. I'm not really keen on the enemy using my weapons against me, in particular the MG42. It can be nasty. Volksgrenadiers and grenadiers preparing for a counter-attack on these to take back this territory. Generally want to counter-attack if possible. In particular, the American player could have possibly split his men out too thinly, meaning I could easily pick them off one by one, but such is not the case. Minesweepers going up, grenadiers back for reinforcement, and Volksgrenadiers standing around nursing their wounds. And we also see a mortar going up to protect this central area by providing mortar fire. Puma watching a bit around, and we see a tank depot is up for Captain Babylon and his 1st Infantry Division. American Infantry Divisions, in fact, having a natural armor element, something not all armor infantry divisions generally did not have. In fact, in particular German infantry divisions did not have organic armor elements, so that was a certain advantage. Of course, the American tank did have its own disadvantages, but that's another story. Airborne force back under fire from the auto cannon. Slight skirmishing on the east. Riflemen having run into the mine, deeply wounded, are now pushed off by the veteran grenadiers, or Panzer Grenadiers I suppose, of the Panzer Lehr. Volksgrenadiers moving in to support, establishing a small defensive perimeter here by this stone wall. MG42 at the front, mortar nearby, and a medic bunker ready to pick up any casualties. This is what I'll be designating as my strong point, where I'll be focusing most of my efforts. Pack still at the back, since I've absolutely no idea where his armor might still appear, so I'd rather not commit it and rather leave the enemy guessing as to whether or not I actually have any anti-tank assets. And we see a Stuke, since I'm now suspecting that a tank is out actually, as that is usually what is going to happen after a certain delay. If something isn't happening within a certain point, you can usually be right in assuming your enemy will be throwing a tank at you, and we see it. And in fact, it has also been upgraded with a longer barrel, meaning it's going to be able to deal with armor and Stukes much more effectively. So he's probably expecting me to have rushed for armor, although I'm going to have to disappoint him there. Volksgrenadiers holding the line at the hill victory point, although being pushed off by the riflemen, grenade thrown at them. Heavy losses, only 2 Volksgrenadiers left, going to have to retreat, leaving the wounded brethren behind, but the Puma dashes in and forces the riflemen to retreat as well. Medics do not apparently know about this, and grenadiers move in to secure the territory instead. And we see that the troops of mine have been pushed back from the east due to the Sherman's presence. Minor fighting here now with the bridge. I'm not in. I suspect that was no. Nippleworth. No, I don't want what happened there then. Mine perhaps. Probably a mine actually. Again, mines can also be used on in bridges, for example. but large force, and very, very unfortunate case of friendly fire hitting my own pioneers. Tragic. Quickly amassing for a counter-assault, counter-attack. Stuke, infantry, and pack. A bit of a mess though, but moving in with mortar providing fire support to soften up the now defenders for the troops moving in. Stuke moving in as well, or at least trying to veterancy 1 up, meaning it will take decreased damage, and I'm also firing off the pack to cover against any further reinforcement towards here. Not really doing anything, but some riflemen are lost. One barely makes it out. Bridge is heavily damaged, and now we see the Sherman is taking heavy damage, having although achieved 4 kills, 6 kills in fact. The MG on it being quite useful. Grenadiers rushing towards the VAR and retreating. Stuke moving ahead, trying to capture the Sherman, but no luck. The Sherman manages to pull out, and we see a machine gun emplacement going up here. I'd probably have tried to place it a bit back further so it could have covered this area instead of just covering this area, since I can basically just run in here and shoot it from this side. You have to be a bit careful with machine gun emplacements. The proper emplacement can do a lot. If you want it to stand alone, and you generally shouldn't try to have it, you should try to have it part of a larger defense, but that's more my defensive theory. And instead, yeah, it just stands alone, and it's easily going to be bypassed, nothing to actually support it. Although if it could have done that, then it could certainly have been much stronger, but again, not the case. Engineers seizing my munitions point, and I'm moving ahead here. Stuke covering one way, pack the other, since I'm suspecting he's going to be trying hard for the central victory point. The American Babylon trying to recuperate and reinforce his forces. Sherman receiving repairs as well. Let's see what the good Captain Babylon is up to with the 82nd Airborne Division. Apparently just relaxing. No upgrades, just apparently reinforcing. Nibble worth of fire hammering in here and gathering up for an assault, as I rather do believe you should never go completely on the defensive, which is in fact something the German military doctrine was also very specific on, that a temporary should also only be defensive, never permanent. You should always try to attack and seize the initiative, since seizing the initiative means you can decide where to strike. And now the American, of course, is deciding where to strike. Now more barbed wire going up to try and make this a bit harder to take. No armor support though, and we see supply drops, meaning munitions, fuel, and some support weapons for the Americans. And we see the riflemen and airborne moving ahead now. Puma and Grenadier team being the only thing to actually stop them. Puma pulling back, a bit of BAR fire doing a bit damage, and now realizing where things are happening, I'm moving my infantry forces in to deal with this, since I have not committed them heavily, or at least since the attack went awry on the east, I can quickly move them towards the west and try and do something. The American quickly adopting a defensive position here. Not bad in fact. Certainly good to try and use some cover to actually hold this defensive, although then again he quickly overextends himself, trying to take as much as possible. Not perhaps the best idea, but still holding on. But now further troops are moving in, applying more pressure to the American forces. Caught up on the high ground. Riflemen moving in, trying to counter-attack the Grenadiers, but being fired upon with their own BARs. In fact, that is the BAR of that team. Oh, the irony. But grenade completely wiping out the Grenadier team, much to my dismay. Now we also see the Sherman moving in, doing heavy damage to the Puma, forcing a retreat. First Grenadiers acting as a rear guard, and we also see medics finally picking up some wounded troops. Now the pack is moved in to provide cover, and we also see the Stuke 4 moving in as well, since I'm rather keen on trying to knock out that Sherman tank with its 8 kills. Riflemen pulling back, leaving behind only the airborne, who can reinforce on the field, a certain advantage they have, which means they can keep up the momentum for much longer if use probably recoilless rifles. and fire up on the field. Puma moving up, trying to deal with them, but actually doing a lot of damage to the airborne, but some recoil shots hitting the Puma. Further casualties. They might not make it out alive, but they do, just barely. And I am still have some success in holding this area, although incursions are occurring forcing me back. And inspired assault has also gone up, I think, or had gone up. Probably here to increase the rate of fire and damage on my Volksgrenadiers and Grenadiers. I do believe that did some damage, although again I don't think it was very conclusive case. And now my Pioneers are just dodging this machine gun emplacement, since there's actually nothing to support it at all. Although now of course the American is forced to notify and react to this, meaning his offensive plans will be a bit hampered. Sandbags going up to try and hold this, since there's no proper cover here. And Volksgrenadiers using this, while most of my armored and mechanized assets are on the western flank. Other Grenadier team with BARs moving ahead, and further Grenadiers being rushed upwards to hold this bridge. And it looks like the next attack will in fact be on the central bridge position. Nebelwerfer fire once more raining in, suspecting a larger attack, but nothing apparently happens. Riflemen suppressed out on the open, and Grenadiers and Volksgrenadiers tearing through them with ease. Last Rifleman team man just barely making out, and the Sherman slaying my valiant Pioneers. And going to move away again while I'm securing the west once more. Not entirely sure what my move is. I could probably go for some veterancy, but or just tech upwards. And now looks like the the Sherman, not Panzer IV, M4 Sherman. Let's just stay proper here a minute, shall we? Moving in from the east, going to try and make a rush for my base. It seems completely unsupported and completely unadvisable, since I could, for example, spot it moving past these munitions points. They do provide some line of sight, and for example decide, oh hey, I'll just send in my Stuke to shoot it in the rear. And this is what happens. Second Sherman moving up and crushing barbed wire though, but let's go back to this fight. Stuke hunting down the M4 Sherman. Pioneers moving in to repair this. Stuke giving this an increased edge, and the pack also being set up probably to counter this. Or no, yes, no, I'm not entirely sure now. Or if I'm trying to deal with this, but nope. You can not always know, but now moving around the Sherman commander, of course not knowing what's happening, but it's now suffering pack fire. The Nebelwerfer trying to get out, and the Sherman M4 wrecked, although the mortar has once more managed to do a bit of friendly fire, knocking out the